Hello, my name is Colin Shanafelt, and Veterans Day was very recent, and I had some people who are very important to me kind of ask me about my military service. So, and it's not something people lead with, you don't go to people and say, hey, guess what I've done? But I thought I would make this little video for posterity, and if anybody is interested in what I did in the military, they can watch this video. That'll be for my students, for my family, for my colleagues, and for anyone who is interested. I grew up in a little town called San Angelo, Texas. Yes, it's true. And in San Angelo, I woke up into this world. Now, I don't know why. Maybe I did something wrong in a previous life or something. I don't know. But I woke up into this world wanting to be an English teacher and a writer. So that's what I set out to try to do. And my mom, she told me, she said, you can do anything you want. I said, anything? She said, anything. So I decided to save the world. Save the world. I didn't do it. I can't do it, But somewhere along the lines, I realized that I can't save the world, but maybe with my students, maybe my students can, And so maybe together, maybe if I try to save the world with love and peace, reconciliation, joy, acceptance, then if I can ask other people to do that, then maybe then I can do it too. Nonetheless, I was the product of a divorce, and neither one of my parents wanted to pay for my college, apparently. So they told me I had to get a diving scholarship. Diving. I was a springboard diver, and I was on the swim team. And I want to really give a shout out to my coach. Her name is Coach Beverly Ball. She taught me discipline. She taught me work ethic. She taught me so much. She has taught so many. So I was on the swim team. I was captain of the swim team, co-captain one year, like this, me and Scott Kimmerer. But and Audrey Gabriel. This is a long story. Okay, anyway. Okay, so I had to get a diving scholarship, and I wanted to get a diving scholarship here at UT Austin, and so I came during the summers, or at least one summer I came and I practiced with. The coach's name was Mike Brown, different coach. And then Matt Scoggins, I believe, was there right when I first started. So, one day when I was a senior in high school, I was going to swim practice, and I was in the passenger seat of a Bronco 2, and the Bronco 2 rolled, and it rolled a bunch of times and threw me out and mangled me. And this is it. I'm going to tell you things that are tender today. I'm going to tell you things that are true. And you know how a true war story? There's caveats. It's not all great, It's not like, oh, but okay. So the moment when I stood up from that wreck, now I tore up my shoulder real bad, tore my face up. I have scars and whatnot. But I don't blame anybody. And the person who was driving, I love this young man. I love him today. I have no ill feelings towards anyone. But when I woke up from that, when I stood up, I should say, I was in shock, clearly. I was clearly in shock. When I stood up from that wreck, the first feeling I remember feeling was, this will surprise you greatly, relief. because I had practiced diving. Oh, I don't know, 2 to 4 hours a day since I was 13 years old. Right, and it's a big commitment. Okay, so I was hurt, but so then that put me on a different trajectory in life, of course, and so I did various other things, and I came to Austin. I lived in Dobie Dorm, and I went to ACC at that time, Austin Community College, so I could. It was hard, man. I couldn't live in Dobie Dorm. I was a barista. I was a barista for my uncle had a coffee shop named Cafe du Jour, two of them, one in a Highland Mall and one in Northcrest Mall. This is in about 1994. Yeah, and so I couldn't afford it. I had to go back to Abilene. This is where I graduated from high school. I grew up in San Angelo, but I graduated in Abilene. So I became I went to. I had to make money, So I worked as a salesperson at Radio Shack. I did really well. I did great. But there was a man. There was a man at Radio Shack. There's a couple of guys that I have had great mentors in my life. But one of them, his name was Don Plumley. Plumster, Donald L. He had been in the Air Force. Yeah. And he encouraged me. He was a intelligence officer on the Looking Glass. And this was an airplane. This was Strategic Air Command. This was an airplane that I have to be careful what I tell you, but he was highly, highly dialed in to all the intelligence of the world. Let's put it that way. There were certain topics he wouldn't talk about. Aliens would not talk about it, period. Done. But nonetheless, this man, I love this man, and he encouraged me to go into the Air Force. I was scared. Who wouldn't be scared? But I did it. My mother was scared for me to do it, but I did it. And now I had to get a couple of waivers. It wasn't easy to get in. Like I had the problem with my shoulder, but it was okay. So, but here's what I decided, because I was on the swim team, and I had been the captain of the swim team, and I had done a lot with water. So I decided to try to be in combat control. That's the special forces of the Air Force. I asked Don. I said, "You think I could do it?" He said, "No." He said, "No." He said, "No, you can't do it." He said, "Your body won't take it." And that was actually great advice. All right, so but I tried nonetheless. I was going to do that. So here I go. I enlist in the United States Air Force from Abilene, Texas. This is the scariest thing I ever did in my life. And they had given me a job, and that job was radio technician, because I had worked at Radio Shack, I assume. And I was good with electronics. I was really good, and am good with electronics. But so the whole thing in basic training and boot camp is, you get up to a point a little bit later when you are able to apply for the combat control. Now, let me tell you what combat control is. Combat control is the Navy SEALs. They're the Navy SEALs of the Air Force. They parachute down behind enemy lines, and they are controllers. I mean, let's be honest. The Air Force is a flying organization. Most of everything you do is going to be revolving around planes in some kind of way. That's what combat control is. They're controllers. But then below combat control, there's, or at least it was then, TAC P, and that's where a soldier would actually go out on the battlefield and laze with like a laser or something, laze a target, and then the precision guided missiles, bombs, and everything would come in. Okay, now, I was not either one of those. I ended up being one rung down from those. So I wasn't TAC P. That wasn't my mission. I was a forward air controller. I was in a forward air control squadron. So that means I was a ground combat person in the Air Force. And if they didn't send the special forces guys, and it wasn't a TAC P kind of thing, they sent me. And so, but I'm getting a little bit ahead now. In boot camp, the first day or two, it's like you think you've destroyed your life, and you're learning how to mark. I remember very carefully, very, very specifically, My drill sergeant, he had been a gunner on a C-130 gunship. And if you know the Spectre C-130 gunship, it is a very advanced machine, and it's very scary. And he was a gunner on it. He was a scary person. And so he would come up to me with his Smokey the Bear hat. He would say, "Cup your hands! Cup your hands!" And I didn't know what he was saying, man. I don't know, you know what he's saying? Well, I had my hands like this when I was marching. You get cup your hands. All right. So I wanted to do whatever it was he was telling me to do. I wanted to do it desperately. Okay. So my first job in the Air Force was, we don't get to radio technician for a long time. My first job in the Air Force was shoe aligner. Yeah, I was the shoe aligner. And so I went and I aligned all the shoes and the whole thing, we had about, I don't know, it was about 50 people in a flight, 50 young men in a flight. And so I did a good job at it. But okay. So then they made me the chow runner. Chow runner is a very, very interesting. It's very scary. It's so scary. All right, so here you are. You're marching. You get 3 square meals a day in the Air Force, and it's good food too. And so here we are. We're out marching, and chow runner, go! And so that was me. So I broke ranks and I ran as fast as I could to the chow hall because we'd be pretty far away. And then once you get to the chow hall, you have to walk in there and you have to do these very, very precise facing movements. And facing movements. I don't know if you know facing movements is marching. So and then you have to walk up in front of what's called the snake pit. And the snake pit is where the TIs, the drill instructors, that's where they sit. And during chow, they're eating. Now, you have to go through, it's a ritual. And now being a professor and understanding about human rituals and anthropology and all this amazing, the breath of life is humanities. This was a ritual. And so I had to go up and do this exact ritual, and I had to say these exact words. And please forgive me. It's been 30 years. I don't remember. But it was something like this. Sir, Airman Shanafelt, and I'm in attention, right? Sir, Airman Shanafelt reports as ordered. Flight 391 approaches from the west side of the building. We have 50 souls, and we will be lined up like, you know. And if you, and so that's kind of like a scheduling thing. And so if you mess it up at all, then you'll have what's called wall-to-wall counseling. And what that means is the TIs, the drill instructors, they'll get up and they'll come to you with their Smokey the Bear hats. And there'll be one here, and one here. Bad breath, onion breath, little mustaches, all screaming. They're up in your face screaming, "What's the matter with you, Airman Shanafelt? You as dumb as that wall," whatever, you know. Well, okay. And if that happens to an airman, everybody in the whole chow hall hears it, and it's just like, it's tragic and hilarious at the same time. You know, that's called getting ripped. All right, so I never got ripped. I was pretty good at it. I never had a problem. And so I was okay, so I have something to admit. I really do. It's true. I was one of the airmen who was up after lights out reading letters from home in the House of Pain. It's true. And so our dorm guard that night, it was not the greatest dorm guard in the world. I don't know who it was. The greatest dorm guard in the world is named Aaron Huntington. And if you're watching this, good on you, buddy. But I don't know. So this TI got into our dorm and and saw some people up. Okay, well, everybody ran to the beds and all that. So next day, the dorm chief was recycled. What that means is to be sent back a week. Might as well be hell, you know. I mean, you know, just so poor guy. His name was Airman Beers, and I'm sure this was only like probably the second week of training. I mean, it wasn't long at all. So Airman Beers got recycled, and we needed a dorm chief. So my buddy Airman Oliver, he became the dorm chief, and after that, they chose him. I don't know if I was ever in running for the dorm chief, but I was chosen for an element leader. So I became an element leader. And that meant that I was in charge of 1/4 of the flight. Well, the first thing we had to figure out how to do was get 50 men through the showers in under I don't know, we had 15, 20 minutes or something. I don't know. We had a small amount of time. So we had to get these young men through the showers, and that was our first order of operations. Well, this is a story that really resonates with me. I've thought about it my entire life. We instituted this highly regimented thing where we would post the soldiers in. We say, first group come in, because you don't want to leave you don't want to come back from PT, go to the shower, and then rub against other guys who haven't showered yet as you're walking out. You don't. So we had them going in, and I think we were giving them 3 minutes. 3 minutes in the shower, 3 or 5 minutes. No, I think it was probably 3. And so the problem that it worked really well. I mean, we were efficient. Bam, bam, bam. But then the problem was, after the showers, me and my element leader buddies, we'd go in there, and the dorm chief, we'd go in there and we'd take 10-minute hot showers, lathered up. Hey, how you doing, buddy? And so, all right, so my guys came to me and they told me, Airman Shanafelt, we don't like that. That's not good. And it was one of my moments. That was one of my moments, and I realized what leadership is then. And leadership is showing people that you will do what you're asking them to do. It's leading by example. You cannot demand respect. You got to earn it. And you got to earn it through blood, sweat, and tears. The Air Force has 3 core values. The Air Force taught me my soul. Integrity first. Service before self. And excellence in all we do. Integrity means doing what's right when no one's looking. So after that time, my guys would do anything for me. They would walk through fire, through hell, through anything for me, because they knew I was humble. I would do anything for them. Okay. And I want to tell you, at night, every night, I recited poetry to them as we went to sleep. I recited The Raven. I knew I could recite The Raven, but it's true. And even now, I can look back at some of my books and things that they've written, and they thanked me. Thanks for the nighttime poetry. So I was always an English teacher, always English, always words, always ideas. You can save the world with words and ideas and love, if you try. And if we all do it, then it'll work. But then I didn't test for combat control because I was busy being the element leader, man. I was doing all this other stuff, so I didn't go take the test for the special forces combat control. But nonetheless, it was still on my records. I was going to go. So that is why I believe I got this lower kind of rung of, it's not special forces, but it's two rungs down, and it's called Forward Air Control. I was attached to a Forward Air Control squadron, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So, but the second part of this story is school. So now they have to teach me how to be a radio technician. Now I want to say something. The Air Force was the most professional, sterling, wonderful, exceptionally bright and great organization I've ever been a part of. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. The United States Air Force, I love it to my core. I'm proud of everything that I did with the Air Force. I mean, I did my duty. I did my duty. And so, all right, so they had to teach me how to be a radio technician. All right, now, so that took forever, forever. When the Air Force trains you, the Air Force trains you. They train you very, very well. Well, first it was a 6-month program, but my class, my little class of radio technicians, we were so good that they chose us for this new initiative called MRT, as Mission Ready Technician. Oh yeah, okay. So all of a sudden, we had orders to. Oh, it was really hard. The Air Force can kind of, it can be tough. We had orders to leave. I think I was going to some other base, but then the next day they just rescinded our orders and said you're going to be here 6 more months or whatever. And so our tech school ended up being with Christmas and leave. I don't know. It ended up being like 13 months or something, and that was in Biloxi, Mississippi. I had the best time of my life there. It was so fun, and I maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement, okay? But you know, I was the coldest I've ever been in my life. We marched. Oh, we marched so much every morning. I mean, you know, it's like, but the people you meet, the bonds that you make are just, it's hard to get anywhere else. We were Air Force people. There was women. I cherish, value, respect, and celebrate women, both in the world and in the military, anywhere they are. I had women with me almost the whole time, except for in my basic training flight. We didn't have them there, but some of them did. They had co-ed flight. But anyway, the women I served with in the Air Force were spectacular. In school, we partied. We had a great time. We would go to Pensacola Beach and stay out there for 3 days, you know, sleep on the beach, have bonfires, you know, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful, wonderful time. It was also very hard because we were highly restricted. I mean, we were in school. We were not full Air Force people. So that was a long time. So then, irony of ironies, I got stationed at the place where my mother had been stationed. And she was stationed with her first husband, and his name was Jim Mizell. And she was stationed in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And that's where I was stationed. I have no idea. She was there, I think, 17 years or something. I don't know. She was there a long time. But here's the point. I became this soldier in this mobile unit. It's called mobile unit. So I had to go to mob school. And mob school is mobility school. That's where you learn how to do everything that a soldier needs to do. You know, they teach you in basic training, but this is different. And we're talking night vision goggles. We're talking M60s. We're talking digging foxholes. We're talking shooting the grenade launchers and all that kind of stuff. It was a whole lot of fun for a 21-year-old young man. You know, I had a great time.
Good hit. Target. To the left. I'm sorry, 135 to 150. Okay, one round going for the left barrels. What distance you got? 150. Target. Take another one there.
But that was training, and I tell people, you know, I've fired all the weapons. I've fired the AR-15 until I like to have melted I've melted some of these things, like the barrels. And if you're at night, I tell this story too. You know, if you're in a foxhole at night and you are your night vision goggles on, and you stay up 2-3 days, you know, because they'll tell you, oh, the Army Rangers are coming to attack your site, do whatever, and you have to defend it. Well, you know, third day, you're up at midnight. You got your best buddy Shavo over here. He's craziest person you ever known. Hey, Shavo, and you know, you're looking through these goggles, and there's a tree line, of course, and so you're like, you will see Army Rangers. I don't care if they're there or not. You'll see them anyway. They're there. So it was great training, and we defended the site and everything. We drove the trucks and the Humvees, and I mean we crashed some of them sometimes. Just all in the course of training. Well, we were a part of an F-15 squadron. This is Eglin Air Force Base. This is 728th ACS, Air Control Squadron, and we were attached to the 33rd Fighter Wing, which flew the F-15 Eagle. All right, great. Well, our primary theater of operations was the Sandbox, Middle East. So very quickly, I was notified that you'll be going to Kuwait. Now, this is probably around. I need to be careful on the dates. This was probably around 96 and 97. Yeah, when I was in Kuwait. I was there a long time. And anyway, in any event, what happened was this. We're Air Force guys. Well, a lot of times, you might stay in a hotel at times if you're in the Air Force. Well, so this group before us was staying in a hotel. I don't know if they were staying there permanently or whatever. I don't know, but they were staying there, and it was called Khobar Towers, and they got blown up. So I think it was 19 of the airmen from my squadron. I mean, I think a few of them may have been from other squadrons here and there, but mostly they were my guys. And they got blown up, and they died. A lot of them died. 19 of them died. Many, hundreds of them were injured. This is huge. It's called the Khobar Towers bombing. So here I find myself in Kuwait, and doing our mission. We went with an expeditionary force, and I was there with the First Cavalry, the Army First Cav, and we first got there, and of course now. We got blown up, right? So we can't. Not going to be any hotels for us. Okay. So first, where we were was Camp Doha. Camp Doha was an army base, and we didn't. We just weren't really accustomed to being with the army all that much. So it was a little bit different. And we stayed on that base for a while. Now here's what happened. We spun a radar, and we contained Saddam Hussein into a tiny little sliver of his airspace. We had a LAS, which is a downward-looking radar system. It's a blimp. Very cool. And there's this place where we chose to set up our radar. And it's called Ali Al Salim Air Base. And nothing classified about that. That's just where it was. It's 18 miles from the Iraqi border. I can only assume it's still there. I don't know. But we were going back and forth every day from Camp Doha to Ali Al Salim every day. We were riding in these white SUVs. Well, at that time, because what we had to do is we had to build the site. The Ali Al Salim site. I mean, it was nothing. And before I get to the wide SUV story, I'll just go on and tell you, when we were able to go out to the desert, and we're talking, when I say desert, I'm talking beige, just flat. I'm not dunes, just okay. We had to build something out there that we could sustain us, but that's what we did. That's who we were. That was our squadron. So we took all our stuff and all that, and you could go out there, and there were bunkers, and we went into every bunker. Now, this was Sergeant Shrek and I believe. We went into every bunker, and you could see how in each one of those bunkers there was a hole. Usually one hole in the ceiling. Now these are earth mound, like earth mound, like a big concrete kind of bunker, where Saddam Hussein, when he took over Kuwait, he actually took those as his own bunkers and made them his try to protect his airplanes. Well, these holes in the ceiling were our precision guided munitions. Who it dropped exactly right down. I mean, I shouldn't. This is nothing to joke about because I wasn't involved in this, but we need to be sensitive. The munitions dropped into the bunkers and exploded inside, and that was what we were greeted with when we got there, and so there were two bunkers that were not blown up, so we chose those for our site, and that's all awesome. So on top of one, we had the radar, and then we have I won't go into too much detail, but nonetheless the radio shop. So, because at long last, yes, I was a soldier and all that. I was guns and all that stuff. But at long last, when you're in the Air Force, you're highly trained to do something more than just weapons and combat. So I was a radio guy, and one of the radio guys. And so I was mostly on night shift while I was there. But we didn't have to build our shed, our little thing. Other like Satcon and people like that, they had to fabricate it from 2x4s and what. Well, we didn't have to build ours, but we upgraded it and all that. When I was in Kuwait, a couple of things happened, and I want to just preserve these stories for whomever may care. We would have to go back from now. Eventually, of course, we built up the site there at Ali Salim, and we stayed there. We lived there. We lived in little we call hooches. These little expandable things. First it was really rudimentary, like tents, and then it was a little bit better tent with an air conditioner, and then it was a hooch, and a hooch is like a accordion thing. But anyway, but before that, we were going back and forth between Camp Doha and Ali Salim. Well, one night we were going about 100 miles an hour, and that's normal. That's normal because IUDs weren't that big of a deal when we were there, but 19 of our buddies just got blown up. We were scared, Why wouldn't you be? We're sitting ducks. Everybody is a white SUV with oh, come on, there they are. So we'd go about 100 miles an hour. Now in Kuwait, the Kuwaitis. Don't be mad at me. I think this is true. Kuwaitis have plenty of money, so they don't really do any of the work. So they contract, and so mostly they contract with like Bangladeshis, etc., etc. Well, so a lot of the Kuwaitis want a green yard, and so they have these water trucks all over the place. And so here we are going 100 miles an hour. I'm in the back of the young guy. I'm in the back of the SUV, no seatbelt on, which is hard for me to understand because I had just gotten in a wreck and I didn't have my seatbelt on in that wreck when I was in high school. Well, okay, all right, I got to start. I wear my seatbelt, I do, but not this night. And so I'm sitting in the center like this with my arms around my buddies. It was after our shift, so we're headed home. It was probably like 6 a.m. or something, because we were night shifting, and it's still dark. There are two water trucks, and they both came out into both lanes at once without looking. We almost plowed into the back of them, and had we done it, I certainly would have died. Certainly. But my tech sergeant, his name was Kevin, he had presence of mind enough to veer out, and we went off-roading in the desert, baby. We went into the desert, and just it was a wild and bumpy and crazy ride. But eventually, we were fishtailing and all that. But then eventually, he pulled it back onto the road, and we survived. 2 nights later, an OSI agent. This is Office of Special Investigations in the Air Force. An OSI agent died that exact same way. Yeah. So then in Kuwait, there was no beer. I didn't have a beer for the whole time I was there, and it seemed like an eternity. I don't remember exactly how long I was there, but it seemed like an eternity. But I want to tell you one more thing. Once we got nailed down there in Kuwait, and we could in Al Salim, we couldn't really leave. I left a couple of times on various little missions and things, but most of the time we had to stay there. So we couldn't get. There's no beer, so we were importing Mountain Dew. It was about as best we could do. Is some Mountain Dew. And it wasn't very good for us because we didn't sleep very well and all that. But anyway, but then I got to know the Army interrogators. And the Army interrogators spoke Arabic, so they were allowed to go downtown. And of course, their Army, Air Force, Army is different. So, so I got these guys because I'm always kind of into something, and so I got these guys to go downtown and buy me several cartons of Cuban cigars. Well, I mean, Cuban cigars at that time, you could. I think if you were in America, there wouldn't be legal, but we're in Kuwait; they're totally legal. So, and there's no military thing against it. So here I am selling these Cuban cigars on the base to the commander, to everybody, to these Cuban cigars. That's just, when you're out there like that. You're like in the middle of the desert, 18 miles. It's just you and your people that you're with. You got to do something. You got to do something to. You got to do something to kind of keep your mind active and stable. I read books. Oh, I read so many books. Oh, I read books. And since we're Air Force communications people, I could talk to my mom. I called my mom all the time. We had satellite phones, man. I could call my mom. I called her every day. I talked to her for a couple hours, at night. That's how you know a true war story, because it's like that. But nonetheless, being very solemn and very respectful and just as loving and repenting if I need to be, I tell you this story. There was a moment when Saddam, because remember, we had him in a no-fly zone. It was called Operation Southern Watch. And we had a no-fly zone. He was not allowed to fly any of his aircraft. It was just a tiny little sliver. That's what we did. I was the guy. I did the radio part. Okay. There was a moment that we had to respond. And I can remember this, I believe it was just a night or two. But we did. We shot some missiles, Tomahawks and whatever, all a bunch of other stuff over there at Saddam. And I don't remember, honestly, I don't know. I think it was Operation Desert Strike. I don't know. I can't remember. I know I have the images of me because we had to get in all our combat gear and all that. But I hope I did my duty. I did my duty, and I know that I'm just the radio guy. And there were operators, the air traffic control types. And then there was the commanders and all that. I get it, but it's still tender. It's still tender. I don't. How could you know what happened, right? How can you know? Okay. So then, I made it through Kuwait, just barely. It was tough. We came back. We came back. We were kind of heroes. I don't know, kind of heroes. Welcome home. Well, you made it, because the last people didn't make it. So I moved into one of the dead guys' dorm room, and that was. Sorry. And I got a better dorm and all that. And I got a medal for that. And I think one of the medals is a unit award, and it's for valor. So in any event, Fort Walton Beach is great, but I was deployed most of the time. So it wasn't very long. It wasn't very long before they said you're going to go to Columbia. And so I was sent to Columbia for a counter narcotics mission, and that was called Operation. I believe it's Steady State or Laser Strike, one of the two. I don't remember, but nonetheless, at that time, there were no Americans in Colombia, right? So it was pretty. I mean, the funniest thing about military secrets, really, I don't know. I don't really. I had a secret clearance. That's it. But most of the time, if you really want to keep something secret, don't make it a secret. But anyway, so we just went to Columbia. It wasn't. I mean, we could tell anybody we went and all that. But when we got there, we couldn't use our real names, and we had to use call signs. I was Egon. Egon. Yeah, Egon. And so we were there, but we were in the middle of the jungle, and we were there with the Colombian Special Forces. I spent most of my time with the Special Forces guys, the Colombian guys, and they were wonderful individuals. But they did their duty. They went and they would go do their duty. And that's all I want to say about that. But nonetheless, I have many stories about these guys. They're great. They were look, I'm 5'7" on a good day, so so they were a little bit shorter than me, which I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, they lived in they lived in really, really desperately crappy conditions, and I was able to go over there to their site. And I was able to fix all of their radio. They didn't have like antennas set up properly. I was able to fix all their radio equipment and all their stuff. And I became really good friends with them. And then the funniest thing of all is that my stepfather was this great fisherman. And some people who had come back from Colombia before me, they had caught peacock bass that were like, I mean, I'm not talking like the smallest man to ever catch a bass. These were huge fish, monsters. Like, I don't know how heavy they were, but nonetheless, they were beautiful. I was going to catch the biggest peacock bass of all, and I was going to show up my stepfather. I had it worked out to where, now, I'm going to tell you all about the airplanes and all that, but I had it worked out to where I had the commanders of the C-130s that were coming in. I had a supply chain thing happening to where, and once I catch this bass, I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to pack it on ice. I'm going to send it, and I've got a guy in Panama, because I went to Panama also. I had a guy in Panama was ready to do taxidermy on it, and I was going to mount this fish and bring it back. It'd be great. So that I'm with these Colombian Special Forces guys chopping our way through the jungle. And by the way, when I was in Colombia, we were fighting something called the FARC. And the FARC is the most terrifyingly dangerous people. They were this revolutionary group. The FARC, their whole thing was to capture Americans and torture them for like 10 years, hold them ransom. I mean, they're tough hombres. Well, they're out there in the jungle, so I mean, that's where they are, and they're after us. They knew there were Americans there. In fact, the time before, I was talking about Navy SEALs and all that, and I did hang out with the Navy SEALs a few times. They were over there at Hurlburt Field, which is next to where I was, and you just kind of cross paths with these. We had a guy, Dan, who had been attached to them, and he took us over there, and we got to know these Navy SEALs and all that. So it's a small world, but the time before me in Colombia, they had been attacked by the FARC. And I don't think I can say too much about that. But the Navy SEALs came, and that was the Combat Control Navy SEALs. It's like, Special Forces, they kind of mix. Well, they had come and they just blew up the forest, and like just to show that to show the FARC that we were there. So it was a little bit safer when I was there. I mean, it was a little bit safer, but it still was not safe at all, And so here I am with these Colombian Special Forces guys chopping through the jungle. I mean, I'm talking like chopping through the jungle with machetes to go catch these peacock bass.
Alison and Fernando. We're going to a new river now because there was no fish in the other river. We're going to the big river. So this is where the alligators are. Maybe we'll see one.
Now, I was like an incredibly important person in Colombia, and that's not my ego. It's just I was the radio guy. I was what's called the A1CIC. That means the Airman First Class in Charge of the radio shop, and so of the radio, and so like if you have to bug out, we're behind, like we're in serious place here. If you have to bug out, who do you want with you? Well, the commander and the radio guy. So anyway, so I operated this Humvee called the Follow Me Humvee. So it was like just my vehicle. I could do whatever I wanted. And so we would go to all the different rivers, and I would try to fish. Well, it was a crazy dangerous thing to do, but I mean, I just kind of did it. And so I always took my either my Colombian Special Forces people, or I took some Colombian Air Force people named Fernando and Alison. And I never got a bite. I didn't catch a fish. I didn't see a fish. I didn't see a fish flop. I didn't see. No fish were harmed in the commission of the. Like nothing. Not a fish. Not a bite. Not a bite. Not a bite. Okay. Well, so. I mean, one thing happened. I mean, these are the war stories that you tell. So one thing happened one day. We were fishing, and we heard something on the other side of the river. It was Rio Tomo, I believe. And so Fernando, he thought it was the FARC, and so he opened up with his rifle, and so did Alison and all that. I mean, I don't know what happened with that, but I'm gonna be honest. I think it was. I don't think it was the FARC. You know what I think it was? I think it was a river seal. No, like a seal, like an animal, because they have them there. Okay, so, but it could. I don't. That's just another kind of tender thing. But so then, because I was so inept at catching fish, I one of the things that I did in Colombia was I did so much. I was so busy. But one of the things that I did is I helped my friend. See, I was Egon, and my friend's name is Player, and we were always working with fire for some reason. We were burning the trash. We were making fire breaks around the site. We were doing all this stuff because, believe it or not, for whatever reason, the jungle just catches on fire all the time, and we didn't want to catch on fire with it.
Look at these clowns. What are you guys doing?
Not about love.
We're fighting fires.
Fighting fires and saving lives.
Save your ass and get your medal.
Look at these heartbreakers and life takers. Bunch of outstanding troops.
I want to know what we were doing over there with the Humvee.
Woohoo! I'm mad about you, baby.
Oh, you getting hosed up?
There you go, get a picture of the host up.
So, but anyway, we were doing fire breaks. Well, you got to burn the trash. Well, Every day I'd be out there and I'd hear this. If I wasn't with my friend Player, now my friend Player, his name was Player, and he was a good-looking young man. He was about 22. He's a firefighter, and he was there in Columbia with me. And we were good buddies. They called him Player because he was a player. I don't know. And he was a good-looking guy. Well, I would be out. I strung all this wire to all these defensive fighting positions and putting up antennas, and I repaired all these radios and this I set up HF radio between us and I think it was one of the other detachments or something. But I'd be out there doing my job, and I'd hear this, and at first you're kind of, well, it's Player blowing up the trash, and his other firefighter buddies, and so well, what you do is you get gasoline. We're just, come on, man, we're young guys. Well, my father there in San Angelo, Texas, taught me how to use gasoline when I was a kid, and he taught me that it's not the gasoline liquid per se; it's the fuel air mix. And what happened to poor Player one day is that he allowed the fuel air mix of the gasoline to encircle him, and then he lit it trying to make a larger explosion, and he got burned up. I think Player got burned up. And I was looking on. This is my most traumatic memory, and I want to be very careful. I didn't see Player burn. And I think he lived, but I don't know. I don't know. I didn't see him burn, but I have seen him burn. Thousands of times. I mean, hundreds of thousands of times in my mind. I've seen it my whole life. Poor Player. He's always burning. Player's always burning. And it's pretty tough. If I could find him, I would love to know how he's doing. Is you all right, buddy? I don't know. So I was looking at some orders, some things that I have, just because Veterans Day was just the other day, and I'm kind of remembering all this. And I saw in there that one of the things that I did when I was there, because I think I was going for this medal, like I think it was a meritorious service medal, which is great, man. It was like really a good medal. I didn't get it. I was a little saucy, I mean, but I didn't get it. My friend Bill got it, and he was a better troop than I. So I support that. I got 3 Air Force Achievement Medals instead, but he got the meritorious service medal, which is cool because you get to ride in an F-15 and get your 9G pin. I was looking at this list of things that I have. One of the funniest things that was on there is that the fish population of Colombia stayed stable. He didn't catch a single fish. Okay, but one of the other things was that I transported someone to the aircraft in a medical emergency, and I wonder. I mean, I don't know if that was Player. I can't. I really, truly, I can't remember. But it clearly said that. So here I am in Colombia, and I became the trade master. I knew enough about Spanish to speak to my guys enough. This is not great. Oh, I had worked at Radio Shack, so I took this little pocket translator, and I was able to do it. Because I was 5, 6, or 7, Well, okay. My uniform items were very, very highly sought after. And I remember we were allowed to have 2 beers per night in Colombia. 2 beers per night. Well, I want to confess something else. I traded a pair of really good boots for 2 botellas de rum, 2 bottles of rum. And, yeah, like any good airman would, I got kind of wasted one night, and then the next day, the chief he got pretty pissed at me, but it's all right. I mean, it was okay. I would go over to there's 2 places. There's the Special Forces, and then there was the Colombian Air Force area. It's not a huge place. parachute and all that. And I would open up the back. I would go to I would get all the uniform items, and I would go over there. And mainly what we were trading for was Colombian coffee, But here we are in the middle of nowhere, little places. I mean, there's not really, to be honest, there was almost nothing out there. Almost nothing. It was on the very edge of the Venezuelan border. I would go over there and I would trade all the different service members' uniform items or whatever they brought. I would get the best deal I could, coffee or whatever. So I was the trade master. Now in Colombia, one of my major duties was to operate the Follow Me Humvee, and the Follow Me Humvee is this thing where now I want to tell you about the C-130 aircraft. The C-130 aircraft is definitely my favorite airplane. It's slow. It's whatever. It's a workhorse of the, I would say Air Force, but it would be more appropriate to say world. I don't know. It's a great aircraft. Now, that is one of the. We just had a little dirt runway there. I mean, it's a little dirt runway. This thing would come in and land, and then I would take my Humvee and I would kick a sign out of the back, and I would say, and it said "Follow me" on it, and so I would taxi the aircraft. Well, I would taxi it to where it needed to go. Follow me, and it would follow. The aircraft would follow behind me. And then when we got to the other end of the runway, this is the most amazing thing ever about the C-130. Its propellers, can change their pitch. So this aircraft can back up. And it can move and maneuver around. We don't need any special equipment. It can do it itself. It's a spectacular aircraft. And so in the context of this, an airman named Crash. I mean, we had a guy named Crash guiding the airplane and telling it how to do, with the hand signals and all that. Why is his name Crash? Well, because I think he crashed every vehicle we had at one point or another. So yeah, four-wheelers and whatever else. And then I had my friend named Flash who got every vehicle we had stuck in the mud up to the chassis except the fire truck. And that was a long day for us. But that was Flash, and this was Crash. Okay. So then, as Crash is doing his thing, and the airplane is turning around because you got to have it ready to go. We're going to have a bug out as soon as we can. And as soon as it's turned around and all that, then I would go on, and I would collect the mail. I would take the mail to the aircraft, and then I would get the new mail. Well, okay. My job was then to get the flight crew and take them to chow. So I would. They were in the back of my Humvee, and they're just kind of rows of, just like two bench seats, rows of seats back there. And I'm this airman. I'm crazy. I'm this crazy, So we were not even supposed to be there, so we didn't wear our insignia or anything. So I was just this crazy airman. And they're colonels. I don't know if any of them were generals. I don't know. They were like really high up officers. And so we would be going back to chow. This is early in because it would come in. It's about, I don't know, once a week maybe, twice a week, I don't know. And it would come and it would leave. So I would find, because we were there in the rainy season, I would find the muddiest, dirtiest, bumpiest, craziest road that you could possibly drive on. And I would take, hey, all right, sirs, hang on, it's been raining for days here. This road is washed out. I mean, if you've ever seen like a tractor pull or a mud bog or a Bigfoot show, it was all that times 10. I mean, and here I'll have these colonels and generals just flying all over the back of the truck, and they're having the time of their lives. Not a one of them ever had it. They're like, yeah, because I mean, think about it. They're here and they're out in the middle of nowhere in Colombia, and here's this crazy airman getting them to chow. And then of course we went and we fed them really super good food. But anyway, then at the end of the day, of course, when they had to leave, I would take them back. well, it's been a long day. I'm tired. This is a problem. And so I'd take them on the dry road. They'd say, Airman, Airman, sir, thought this road was washed out. Oh yeah, sorry about that. And they would just laugh. Oh, they'd laugh so hard. And then they'd take off, and yeah. And so that was my duty as the follow me Humvee driver. And that was Colombia. And our stated mission was it was counter narcotics. There is a smuggling route that goes from, I guess, down in the Andes even, all through Colombia, and then through Venezuela, and then up through into the Gulf. And that's what we would police. Now, if you would ask us then, we'd say, we shoot down drug planes. We didn't shoot down drug planes. We would maybe launch on drug planes sometimes, because they had, the Colombians had what's called OV-10s then. I mean, these are Vietnam era airplanes. They're cool though. Dual prop. They're cool little airplanes. But anyway, one day I disconnected the runway lights, and they said we won't be back for a couple of days. Well, they came back that night, and me and every other American serviceman were out there up to our knees and up to our waists in mud trying to find this. And I swear, eventually it was like the movie where Clark Griswold finally puts the two electrical cables together, and it comes, and the OV-10s, they were running out of gas, and there was all this big thing, and so in any event, so our stated mission was to watch for drug planes, and we did a good job of it. We sent intelligence. It was a long thing. We never shot down any drug planes while I was there. Not that I know of. They don't tell me everything. I don't know. But we didn't. Now, did we launch on some? Absolutely.
So he got the friggin' good ass target. Maybe. Well, hey, why don't you just count it? You got 4. Let me fire again. What did you hit? 17.
And this is
his target. My target.
22, 24, 26.
Okay,
30, 34.
34 points.
Oh, le ayudó, muy bien.
That's messed up.
I think they're dead.
All right.
Is that yours he got?
I
Yeah,
think they're dead.
Hey, you want me to fire again? The line is ready. Fire!
I came back from Columbia, and I decided to go to. I had to the whole. Now I want you to know I was always taking classes. I think on that thing I read about my medals, it said that I took 78 hours when I was in the Air Force. Well, some of that was school, with the radio technician thing. Then I decided it's time to become an English teacher finally. So I got out, and there was some. The road is a windy. Life is a windy road, but so I decided at one point, and I got out of the military, and I came to the University of Texas at Austin, and I still have a wonderful and deep and cherished love for UT Austin. But I want to tell you something that I'm very not proud of. I'm not super proud of it. I left UT Austin. I left it. I didn't graduate from UT Austin. And I went to Texas State because they had a program for veterans, and I went back into ROTC. So I did another year of service in ROTC and it was active duty ROTC, and that was at Texas State University. So I ended up graduating from Texas State University, and my highest rank really was senior airman, but I guess my highest rank was officer candidate, because that's what. Now, I started to feel. I was married at that time now, again, and I'm still married to the same wonderful woman. I started to feel we're just not right about going back into the Air Force. I wanted to be an English teacher and a writer and eventually a professor. And so I started feeling kind of a pain in my side and stuff, and I don't know. So it wasn't a big deal. I was active duty for about a year there, ROTC. But then I decided to get out. I decided to just call it good. 1 week after I got out of active duty ROTC, 9/11 occurred. So my life would have been very much different had I done that. So my service took place after Desert Storm. Even though my orders say Desert Storm, it was after Desert Storm and before the Iraqi War. I want to say one more, or maybe just a couple more little things. I was the guy who contained Saddam Hussein. We had him in a narrow little strip. He was no threat to us. I was the guy who helped shoot some missiles at him when he did some bad stuff. And so when we pivoted and decided to go attack Iraq after 9/11, I did not agree. I protested it. I was against it. I'm still against it. But I want to make very clear that does not mean I call anyone's service into question. We did our duty. Now, there are two things. The first thing they teach you in the Air Force, I guess, is to take your hat off when you walk in the door. But a very close second is that you do not have to follow an unlawful order. Sir, I was just following orders, does not work. You do not have to. You think about we Air Force people, we have our fingers on very, very, very powerful buttons. So, integrity first. Service before self. Excellence in all we do. And I took those values to heart. And I was against the Iraqi war, but I'm not against anyone who had to do their duty in that time. Afghanistan, I hold my brothers and sisters of the United States military, all branches. I hold them in the deepest esteem, in the highest honor, in the greatest, most sterling for duty, honor, country. And as we move forward, let's keep those lofty ideas in mind. And maybe, just maybe, after telling you this and talking to you about my service, maybe we can recommit. Maybe we can recommit to each other. And I'll tell you what. I'll make you a deal. If you'll try to go out there, and if you'll try to save the world with love, and peace, defense, respect, honor, if you'll try to do it, I'll try to do it too. And maybe we can just make this world a better place. I lay all this at the feet of the American citizens and the American fighting soldier who has done so much for me and given me so much. I love you, America. And I love you, the American military soldier. And you have done your duty, and I'm super proud of you. Thank you for your service. Happy Veterans Day.